I feel like I got it.
So we have y equals negative 2x squared, minus 8x plus 2. Okay. What's my first step? Okay, move the 2 over, so I have y minus 2 plus blank is equal to negative 2x squared minus 8x plus blank. We've taken negative 2 out of both these terms. So when I do that, I get x squared, and what do I get for my second term? Plus 4x, and then I've got my plus blank. We're going to take this b term and divide it by what? 2, which is 2. So I have 2 squared in the parentheses here.
So you have to take negative 2 times 4.
So I have 4, negative 8. So I have
10.
So what does this factor down to? So I have y equals negative 2, x plus 2, quantity squared, plus 10.
Wait, so you keep that negative 2 in there?
Yeah, it's got to stay. You can't just get rid of it. Because it changes your graph. It flips the graph down and makes it narrow.
That's right.
So, okay. So we're going to leave 3.1. We're going to go on to 3.2, which is not quadratics, so not a parabola necessarily. We're going to go into polynomials, which is kind of an umbrella over all graphs. So you could have a quadratic, but it doesn't necessarily have to be one certain degree. So today and tomorrow, we're going to talk about polynomial graphs, and I think tomorrow is when we're actually going to be graphing them. Today we're just going to talk about what the end behavior is of the graph, and you've done this in Algebra 1, or Algebra 2. Oh yeah, this is super easy today. So we're going to be able to go over, I've got one example, a little chart I'm going to give you. I've got a handful of problems, then we're going to go over them in class and be done today. So this is 3.2, polynomial graphs. And the difference in the last section was just quadratic, so it was just polynomials, or just parabolas. Polynomials can be anything. You could have, underneath the polynomial umbrella, you could have a quadratic, you could have a cubic graph, you could have a radical graph, you could have any kind of graph that there is, okay? But today we're just going to talk about what the end behavior is. You could also have a graph that's got a lot of turns, like this. It could be any kind of graph. We're only going to look today at what is happening at the ends of your graph. So when I show you this chart, you're probably going to remember. And they don't have the same chart, so I'm going to give you the one that you've seen in Algebra 2. So when we have a polynomial, like let's say y equals negative 4x to the 5th plus 5x to the 3rd minus 2x plus 1. You always want to write your polynomial in standard form, which means from the highest exponent down to the lowest exponent, which I did here. 5 is your highest exponent. Then you have to pick out 2 pieces of information to be able to determine end behavior. The first piece of information is the degree. What does the degree mean? The highest what? Exponent. So what's the degree of this polynomial? 5. It's this 5 right here is the degree. The other thing that we need is the leading coefficient, which is basically what's out front, what's the number in front of the x with the highest exponent. In that case, it would be negative 4. So this is the only information you need to determine end behavior. But you have to make sure it's written in standard form first, meaning it goes from highest exponent down to lowest. So like if this negative 2x came first, you need to rewrite it so it's in this order, or you're going to get messed up. So here's your little chart for end behavior.
Is the first number, like the number at the beginning.
What?
The leading coefficient is the number at the beginning.
Leading coefficient is the number in front of the x with the highest exponent. So if that's not written at the beginning, it's not. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have, this side's going to be the degree, and this side is the leading coefficient. For degrees, all I care about, are they even or are they odd? So one column is gonna be even degrees, and the other column is gonna be the odd degrees. So this number here, I'm looking at whether it's even or odd, it will always be positive. So it's not positive or negative. Leading coefficient, I'm looking at is the number positive or negative. So I don't care that it's a 4, I care that it's negative for leading coefficient. So here's what the end behavior looks if you have an even positive. An even positive would be something like this. Y equals x squared. We just did a bunch of these. Is that a smiley face or a frowny face? Smiley face, because what is our leading coefficient here? It's a positive 1. So we have a positive and an even. So when you have a positive leading coefficient and an even degree, your end behavior is going to be up, up. Just like if I was to draw this, it was like this. What happened when I had y equals negative x squared? What happens, how does the graph change?
It's a negative.
So it flips down, so it's a frowny face. So what's my end behavior doing when I have a negative leading coefficient but an even degree? Down, down. So even is very easy to me because they stay together. Even stays even. If it's positive, it's going to be going up. If it's negative, it's going to be going down. Okay? Odd doesn't stay together. So odd positive looks like this. Down and then up. And odd negative is up and then down. I'll tell you how I remember that. So I know that odd is going to go 2 different directions. To figure out which one goes which direction, I read it like a book, like left to right. So if I look at this one, it's starting down and it's ending positive because it has a positive leading coefficient. This one is starting up and it's ending negative. When I go left to right, it's ending negative, so that's a negative leading coefficient. So that's how I remember it. You can remember it however you want. So let me give you just a couple, and you can decide what the end behavior is, and I'll let you go on your work. So today's very easy. It's a good Monday lesson. Okay, so let's say I have 4x plus 7x to the third minus 5x to the fifth. What do I need to do first to this problem?
Arrange it.
Okay, so I'm going to rearrange it to be negative 5x to the fifth, and then I'll have plus 7x to the third plus 4x. So what's my degree for this one? 5, which is odd. And what's my leading coefficient?
Negative 5.
-5, which is negative. So I'm looking at odd negative in my little chart, which should be up, down. You guys agree? Okay, I'm going to give you one for you to do on your own, and then we're going to be done. Okay, you guys do this one on your own. Put it in standard form, pick out each one, and then just show what the end behavior would be. What comes first in standard form? 7x to the 4th, and then plus 2x squared minus 5x plus 3. So our degree is what?
4.
4, which is even. And our leading coefficient is 7, which is positive. So even positive gives you what?
2 ups.
Ups, 2 ups. 2 ups. Up, up. Easy enough?
Yeah.
Okay, your homework is, or it's not even homework, because we're going to go over this in class. So when is this due today? In class. So what should you do right away?
Work on it.
Work on it before you do anything else. Work on this classwork. It's going to be easy, I promise.
We're just going over it, we're not turning it in, right?
Right. Page 280, 1 through 8, and 13 to 22. And look how short my assignment is. Don't look at the answers though, cheaters.
Do we have to like rewrite it in the correct order?
Why do I feel like it's an A, B, C?
If it tells you to write it in the correct order, I would write it in the correct order.